A lone hunter returns through blue snow, carrying meat and one unanswered question. At the fire, one woman recognizes his step before anyone else turns to look. They share food, shelter, and a child, but does that make them monogamous? Did Ice Age couples stay together, remain sexually exclusive, or simply cooperate? Bones and tools survive. Promises do not. So before we answer, one familiar word must be separated into 4 different behaviors. Social monogamy means 2 adults live, travel, or raise children as a pair. Sexual monogamy means neither partner mates with anyone else during that bond. Genetic monogamy means every child of the pair is biologically theirs together. Normative monogamy means the group expects one partner and enforces that rule. These 4 patterns can overlap, but they do not have to travel together. A stable household may exist without sexual exclusivity or lifelong commitment. And a child can have 2 biological parents without those parents sharing a home. That diversity warns us against giving every Ice Age camp the same family system. The best early answer is flexible. Durable pair bonds mattered, but they were not one universal rule. Cold, distance, pregnancy, childhood, and food scarcity all changed the calculation. The strongest clues begin not with fidelity, but with who lived, moved, and reproduced together. A small camp might contain siblings and cousins, but few unrelated adults of similar age. Remaining isolated could raise the risk of mating repeatedly among close relatives. Networks between camps allowed people, materials, stories, and potential partners to move. At Sunga, about 34,000 years ago, genomes revealed limited close kinship. The individuals came from a small population but showed relatively low inbreeding. This suggests wider social connections beyond the people buried at that single place. It does not prove monogamy, marriage vows, or a specific rule for choosing partners. It does show that small communities were not necessarily trapped within themselves. A second clue comes from biological kinship, although social parenthood leaves subtler traces. Burial position may suggest connection, yet it cannot identify affection or daily care. Shared food and space show association, not the private rules of a relationship. Even genetic parentage would not prove that 2 adults were sexually exclusive. It records a reproductive outcome, not every relationship that came before or after. This difference is crucial when documentaries claim DNA has discovered ancient marriage. DNA can identify relatives, it cannot recover vows, jealousy, permission, or betrayal. At Chagaskaya Cave, researchers found a Neanderthal father and adolescent daughter. Other relatives were present, offering a rare glimpse of a small community. Genetic patterns were best explained by substantial female movement between communities. That may mean many women joined groups where male relatives tended to remain. But one cave, one region, and one period cannot define all Neanderthal society. The finding reveals kinship and migration, not monogamy or a universal residence rule. Still, it makes the social stakes visible. Partnership could require leaving home. The arriving woman may have entered a camp filled with her partner's relatives. Those networks mattered, but daily survival gave dependable pair bonds another advantage. Before laws or written vows, survival itself may have shaped who stayed together. The pair by the fire are a cautious reconstruction of choices repeated across many generations. What kept 2 people close when nothing prevented one of them from walking away? The first answer begins with the unusually long and costly childhood of our species. Human children grow slowly and depend on others far longer than most young mammals. A nursing parent could not always gather, carry, defend, and travel at full capacity. Reliable help from another adult may have reduced danger during vulnerable years. Grandparents, siblings, friends, and other camp members could share the burden. Humans are cooperative caregivers, and children often survive through many hands. A bonded pair may have been important, yet it was nested inside a wider network. Cooperation spread risk when hunting failed or illness reduced someone's strength. A pair bond may have organized repeated help without replacing communal care. It could turn uncertain favors into a relationship expected to continue tomorrow. But scientists debate whether paternal provisioning originally created pair bonds. Some models emphasize food and childcare, others emphasize guarding a valued mate. No single mechanism explains every population, landscape, or moment in prehistory. Pair bonding could be strong while the form of marriage remained culturally variable. The hunter gives part of his return to the woman, but the whole camp also eats. Still, repeated provisioning would have practical effects even without romantic love. It could stabilize care, reduce uncertainty, and make joint planning more valuable. Imagine a winter when one adult is injured and cannot collect enough food alone. A dependable partner changes the odds, especially when a young child must be carried. Yet dependence creates risk, because the loss of one partner can threaten several lives. Ice Age families were likely webs of support, not sealed pairs facing nature alone. Would you choose one dependable partner or a larger circle with weaker obligations? The answer may shift with season, mortality, mobility, and the number of available mates. People may have maintained alliances that opened paths to unrelated partners. Such movement could separate a person from parents, siblings, and familiar ground. A new pair bond may therefore have linked two communities as well as two individuals. Partnership was potentially personal, reproductive, economic, and diplomatic at once. But exchange between groups could support many systems, including polygyny or remarriage. The evidence tells us connections existed, not exactly how intimacy was organized. Modern hunter-gatherer comparisons can now widen the picture, but only as cautious analogies. They reveal human possibilities, not living fossils of a vanished Ice Age world. Across foraging societies, pair bonds and recognized marriages are extremely common. Yet permission for one man to have multiple wives also appears in many societies. That does not mean most men actually have several wives at the same time. Opportunity depends on resources, reputation, age, sex ratios, and community approval. In many groups, most active households may still contain one woman and one man. So a society can permit polygyny while everyday marriage remains mostly monogamous. The rule on paper and the pattern in camp are not always the same thing. The same distinction probably mattered in prehistory, though no written rules survive. A successful provider might attract another partner, but supporting two households costs more. In mobile camps, possessions were limited, yet time, food, attention, and trust stayed scarce. A second partnership could create cooperation, but also rivalry and divided investment. Communities may have used norms to manage these tensions, though their rules are unknown. Some could favor one lasting pair, others could tolerate several recognized partners. Still others may have shifted arrangements after death, conflict, infertility, or migration. Serial monogamy offers an especially plausible middle ground between two extremes. A person can form one strong pair bond, separate, and later form another. That pattern is monogamous at one moment but not across an entire lifetime. Among recent foragers, remarriage can follow divorce or the early death of a spouse. Ice Age mortality made lifelong partnership difficult even when people desired stability. A bond ending does not mean it was weak, deceptive, or biologically meaningless. It may have lasted exactly as long as circumstances and survival allowed. Could you call a 10-year bond monogamous if both partners later chose someone else? Our modern labels often demand sharper boundaries than ancient lives probably offered. The next complication is the difference between social parenting and biological paternity. A man may invest in children he recognizes as his without genetic certainty. A woman may receive support from a partner while relying heavily on her own relatives. A camp may treat children as members of a household, lineage, or wider cooperative group. Her security might depend on the bond, but also on friendships she built there. Alternatively, couples may have moved flexibly between both families over time. Modern foragers show varied residence patterns, often balancing kin on both sides. Mobility allows households to split, reunite, and change camp membership seasonally. A pair can remain bonded without living beside the same relatives every year. This flexibility may have been essential when game moved or local resources failed. Family organization was likely responsive to ecology rather than permanently fixed. The woman by the fire is therefore not simply joining one man's private household. She stands inside a network of children, elders, siblings, visitors, and obligations. If the pair separates, those surrounding relationships may shape what happens next. Who keeps caring for the child may matter more than who keeps a particular shelter. The archaeological record rarely preserves these negotiations with any clarity. What it preserves better are patterns of movement, diet, ancestry, and biological kinship. Those clues can test possibilities, but they seldom select one complete marriage system. The hardest question is sexual exclusivity, the meaning most audiences attach to monogamy. This behavior is almost invisible without dense genetic pedigrees across generations. A socially stable couple could be sexually exclusive, mostly exclusive, or openly flexible. We should not turn silence in the evidence into proof of perfect fidelity. Scientific caution cuts in both directions, protecting the past from our fantasies. Human biology supports attachment, desire, jealousy, cooperation, and relationship change. Love itself cannot fossilize, though care can sometimes leave material consequences. A shared grave may look romantic, yet the dead could be siblings or unrelated companions. The most cinematic interpretation is often not the most defensible one. What evidence would convince you that an ancient pair truly stayed exclusive? Even dense pedigrees would describe reproduction more clearly than emotion or private behavior. Recent comparative research places humans near socially monogamous mammals in sibling patterns. That pattern supports stable pairs as an important part of human reproduction, not proof of fidelity. It does not erase cultural variation, polygyny, divorce, remarriage, or extra pair mating. We are unusual because durable pair bonds coexist with broad social cooperation. Two adults may anchor care while grandparents and unrelated allies keep the system resilient. This combination can support dependent children without isolating the couple. It also allows relationships to survive temporary separation during travel or hunting. Trust becomes valuable when partners cannot constantly observe one another. But trust is a social achievement, not something archaeologists can measure directly. Communities may reinforce it through reputation, exchange, ritual, or sanctions. Ornaments might signal identity or status, but their marital meaning cannot be assumed. Pigments and burials show symbolic worlds, not a readable handbook of relationships. We can cautiously infer that communities recognized bonds important to child-rearing. We cannot know whether they celebrated weddings, demanded fidelity, or accepted alternatives. The term marriage may be useful only when defined broadly and used with caution. Pair bond is safer because it describes attachment and cooperation without legal assumptions. Yet even pair bond covers relationships that vary in duration and exclusivity. The best model is not a single box but a landscape of overlapping possibilities. At one edge lies a long-lasting, sexually exclusive pair raising children together. At another lies polygyny, where one person maintains several recognized partnerships. Between them are serial bonds, visiting partners, shared care, and changing residence. Different arrangements may coexist within the same community or across one lifetime. Sex ratios matter, especially when deaths or migrations leave partners scarce. Kin alliances matter, because a partnership can link families beyond the couple. Individual preference matters too, though it is almost entirely lost to archaeology. No evolutionary equation can recover one person's affection, fear, or refusal. That missing individuality should make reconstruction more humane, not less ambitious. The pair by the fire may have chosen each other, been guided by kin, or both. Their bond may have survived winters, births, journeys, and long separations. It may have ended later without making the years they shared any less real. The answer is a spectrum, not a verdict that can fit every ancient camp. So were Ice Age humans really monogamous? The evidence gives a qualified answer. The evidence suggests many humans formed recognizable and often durable pair bonds. Those bonds probably supported cooperation, childcare, provisioning, and intergroup ties. But social pairing alone cannot prove full sexual or genetic exclusivity. Polygyny was likely possible in some settings, while serial monogamy may have been common. No single rule can represent every human group across tens of thousands of years. Even Neanderthal evidence reveals family and movement, not one universal mating system. The safest conclusion is flexible pair bonding within larger cooperative communities. Some couples may have remained together for life, others changed as circumstances changed. The returning hunter sits beside the woman, close enough to share the fire's warmth. We cannot hear a vow, and we cannot know every choice that brought them here. But staying together tonight may still carry years of memory and mutual dependence. Monogamy was probably not one Ice Age law written into every human heart. It was one recurring solution among several, shaped by children, danger, trust, and loss. Which ending seems most plausible? Lifelong pairs, serial partners, polygyny, or a mixture? Choose one below, and tell us what evidence would be strong enough to change your mind.